This episode of Twin Cities Trekkies is brought to you by Anchor. If you haven't heard about Anchor before, let me explain. First of all, it's free. There are creation tools that help you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer. You can easily make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership required. They'll also help you to distribute your podcast so it can be heard on many different platforms, such as Spotify and Apple Podcasts. It's all you need in one place. Download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. All right, everyone. Welcome to episode 28 of Twin Cities Trekkies. I am Wes.
And I'm Kenzie.
And today we're talking about time travel.
Very, very intense. That's probably my favorite thing about Star Trek is all of the science fancy time traveling explanations that they have for time traveling in the show.
Yeah, and it's different methods they use to try and travel too.
Yeah, that's very exciting.
Yep. So to get in touch with us is simple. Simply send us an email at tctrekkiespodcast@gmail.com. Feel free to send us an email. Granted, if you have an opinion about time travel, let us know. If you don't like it or it's stupid or whatever. Because I know William Shatner called it stupid when they were trying to do Voyage Home. So so I remember this. I remember that interview he did for like a DVD or something like that about Voyage Home. He said that he thought it was really dumb. So pish tosh.
Yeah, I'm like, keep your opinions to yourself, Kirk.
Yeah. So, but also you can find us on Facebook and Instagram. The handle is tctrekkiespodcast. Or and then stuff like that. Find us on YouTube. If you want to leave a comment there, that's perfectly fine. Twin Cities Trekkies is pretty easy to find. If you do find us on YouTube, make sure you hit the subscribe button, hit the bell. I know you have subscribed there, Kenzie. I know you have.
Oh yes.
Yeah,
always.
Totally. Yeah, I mean, granted, we have like 8 subscribers, and it's okay. But I mean, we would like to have a lot more, obviously, eventually.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, but it's pretty
just gotta find ways to promote it. I think that's the hardest thing is like promoting things without seeming like you're promoting it. Like I just like to share it and be like, hey, check it out. Yeah, or finding ways to include people in conversation more. I think that's kind of the big thing of like, how do we keep conversation rolling? Like even if you don't listen to it, like asking questions, like being like, hey, tell us what you think about this.
Yeah, tell us what you think about this, and we'll definitely answer your question. Yeah, and that's if you put on a comment on Facebook or on Instagram or on email, that's perfectly fine.
Yeah.
And also, if you have a podcast of your own, if you're listening to us and you podcast yourself, you can send us a 30 to 60 second promo and send it to us at the email address of tctrekkiespodcast@gmail.com. And I also neglected to mention this on episode 27. You can also send us voice messages. Go to anchor.fm/Twin Cities Trekkies. Click on that little message button. Enable your microphone, and start recording. And granted, if you do a whole hour, we'll dedicate it to you. We'll obviously break it up and react to what you have to say. But other than that, just keep in mind, any feedback you do leave, written or verbal, may be featured in a future episode of Twin Cities Trekkies.
Did you know that there are over 1 million podcasts out there and over 30 million episodes? So why should you listen to PodJerky? Well, we have a little bit of something for everyone. We discuss topics such as fertility, pet peeves, Netflix reviews, music, conspiracy theories, and everything in between. We will entertain you, make you laugh, and make you cry. Our amazing guests are also sure to put a smile on your face. Tune in every week to PodJerky on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, and wherever podcasts can be found. PodJerky, bringing you original flavor.
So we should talk about the news. Uh,
Yeah.
we didn't do that in episode 27 because we know we had a time, we kind of a time commitment with our guest.
Very exciting guest. Yes.
Yep, Dr. Birko Katerina Ruzdika from Germany, and we had a great conversation. So if you haven't listened to episode 27 yet, I hope you do enjoy it. But I did mention this a little bit on the episode that Alex Kurtzman's contract with CBS has been extended. He got a handsome pay raise, by the way, too. A very handsome pay raise.
That's good. So well deserved.
Yep. So, he is extended through 2026 at least. More development deal with Star Trek and stuff like that. Apparently, Viacom CBS really likes him. And so I know there have been people who have been asking for his ouster the moment he had become sole showrunner of Star Trek, because he thinks that they think that he's been ruining Star Trek, and it's like mind blowing how many people just continually say like, oh, he's been fired, and he's hired, and he's fired, and he's hired.
Yeah.
it's really kind of crazy, but
that's showbiz, baby.
Yeah, exactly. So I think he's been fired at least 47 times.
That's quite the track record.
Yeah, quite the track record for being the person who gets hired and then fired so many times. Yeah.
What a way to be.
So he's going to develop more Star Trek for Paramount Plus. There is the Section 31 show, which has been put on the back burners a little bit because of COVID and stuff like that. I know Michelle Yeoh lives out in, I think, in Hong Kong or something like that, or something, not in the United States or Canada. Oh, Australia. I think that's where she lives. But so definitely Section 31 is still being developed, even though it's at a slower pace because of COVID, and also because I know there's some higher ups who said you might see it after one of the shows ends. Which is okay. It's perfectly fine. I don't mind it. I mean, we don't want. Granted, I know the discussion about franchise fatigue is a big thing because Star Trek has already experienced that. But this is 2021, not 2005.
Yeah.
So you got Star Wars has now exploded on Disney Plus with a bunch of their shows, some of which I am looking forward to. One of them, in particular, is the Obi-Wan Kenobi limited show.
Oh yeah.
Yep, that's what I'm looking forward to.
Yeah, that's gonna be cool.
That's gonna be next year on Disney Plus, but we're not talking about Star Wars. But
we can always talk about both. That is our thing that Wes and I are super proud of. Why not both, right? Yeah, we're not doing both. The whole like one or the other. Is Star Wars better than Star Trek? I'm like, nah, we like both. It's all good.
Exactly. Yep, and and then you got the Marvel Cinematic Universe exploding with a bunch of limited series.
Yeah, it's a time for sci-fi. It's exciting.
Sci-fi and superhero and stuff like that. So I know the concern is about Star Trek being oversaturated again. I completely understand. I validate your concerns. But I think since every show is one season at a time, and it only airs that season, and then the next one, and the next one after that, I think that is actually what Berman Trek should have done.
Yeah.
Granted, Berman Trek had done that for Next Generation, Deep Space Nine, and Voyager especially, if he had all spaced them out by the seasons and stuff like that. I don't think we would have had franchise fatigue. But granted, no one did that at the time. No one understood that. Now with Paramount Plus doing that, it makes more sense. I don't think there'll be an issue with franchise fatigue now, considering that Marvel and Star Wars are exploding on their streaming service. So it's okay. So 2026, there is the Section 31 show. There is a report out that we haven't heard much about in the last 3 years, which was a Starfleet Academy show. which I think it probably won't be on Paramount Plus, and that's my
Shout out to Starfleet Academy, and my little thing is back there hanging out.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah, so I think the Starfleet Academy show will not be on Paramount Plus initially. I think it probably will once the seasons are done, and I think it would probably be on the CW. And there you go, folks. A Star Trek show on network television. There you go. I know that some fans were.
I know that is like a tough. For some people, it's really tough to have that if that's the only way that you've ever, watched Star Trek is on network television. Which for some of us, that's how we always did. But
yeah. Yeah, and I just see that, if we put it on the CW, I have a feeling that it would probably be on Paramount Plus once the season ends and stuff like that. They would just put the seasons on their own feed on Paramount Plus once it ends. So that's why I'm thinking that it would probably be on the CW. I think that would be more geared towards teens anyway.
Yeah.
Because Prodigy is aimed towards kids, and then you got the Starfleet Academy show that's geared towards teenagers. And stuff like that, teen drama.
It's exciting to have different age groups, being talked about. Though I love that it's like that everyone has a chance to get into Star Trek, whatever age group they are.
Yes,
I'm just excited to pleasantly surprise the neighbor kids next door who are like, Star Trek? I don't know what that is, and I'm like, oh, you'll know soon, hopefully. Yeah. Like, I hope that you'll be able to watch Prodigy or know of it enough to actually be like, hey, wait a minute, you talked about Star Trek, and get them into it.
Yeah. And, there's also, it was all from the New York Times, by the way, folks, this extension of Alex Kurtzman's contract with CBS. He had mentioned in the article about a Worf-centric comedy.
I would absolutely love that.
I mean, granted, Michael Dorn has been trying to pitch his Captain Worf show for years. But I think it'd be interesting to see if they go forward with this and Dorn is on board.
Oh, man. One of my most used Star Trek related images or things is the scene of Worf, like when they do the whole Shakespearean thing. He's like, I am not a merry man.
The Robin Hood.
Yes, I constantly use that. That is like my favorite like reaction GIF thing to use is just like, I am not a merry man.
Well, like I said, that one's in the pitching stage.
Yeah.
Granted, it may not happen,
we'll see how it's perceived.
Or maybe he'll get his wish. Maybe Dorn will get his wish and do the Captain Worf show. But Paramount Plus will be coming to the UK and Europe next year. Thank you to Sky. Thanks to Sky. So Paramount Plus is continuing its expansion outside of the United States.
Oh, that's something, darn. I wanted to ask Birko about that, talking about how she grew up watching Star Trek, what that looked like in Europe, especially in Germany, like if that was just like what television things hosted it or how that worked. But yeah, it's interesting to see how that plays out, like, or how much exposure Europeans have to stuff we kind of take for granted being available to us.
Yep. And so it'll be launching in 2022 in the UK and Europe and stuff like that. So it's now available it'll be available in Latin America this fall and Australia, I think, later on this year. Then it'll be expanding to like Europe, rest of Europe. It has the Nordic countries. The Nordic countries were given it the same day as the United States. So here's my plan. I hope that eventually all the current contracts with the new shows on the other streaming services will expire. And once Paramount Plus has been implemented all over the world, you would see probably Netflix and Amazon dropping the shows that from Kurtzman era Trek and put them all on Paramount Plus. And that's what I think is going to happen eventually. So, and then everyone will get it at the same time. And speaking of Amazon Prime Video, Lower Decks Season 2 will be on this next day on Amazon Prime Video. So if you are an international fan and you're listening to us, fear not. Granted, you got Lower Decks 6 months after the United States, but or about 6 months later because of COVID. But rest assured, you will have it the day it premieres, which, as of this recording, is this week. So it'd be great to hear that. It's great to hear that and stuff like that. Oh yeah, and one more thing. This is not necessarily Star Trek related news, but it does affect somebody who is a part of Star Trek but did something really recently. So LeVar Burton.
Oh yes.
LeVar Burton. A few weeks ago he hosted Jeopardy. And that was all thanks in part to us Star Trek fans.
Yeah.
Pretty much.
Mm-hmm. It was all a huge poll of just trying to get everyone to ask him to be on the show.
Yeah, ask him the guest host because Alex Trebek had passed. In case you don't remember, Alex Trebek passed away last November of pancreatic cancer, and they were scrambling to figure out who was going to host the show after he dies. And they've had a string of guest hosts. They've had former champion Ken Jennings. They've had Mike Richards, the executive producer. They've also had Robin Roberts and George Stephanopoulos from ABC's Good Morning America. They've also had Bill Whitaker from CBS's 60 Minutes and stuff like that. And they've also had Mayim Bialik from The Big Bang Theory guest hosting for a couple weeks and stuff like that. As of this recording, there is one more guest host, and it is Fox Sports' Joe Buck, and that's it. That's the end of the season. That will be the end of the season. But there is a report out from Variety, the trade newspaper and for the trades of show business, that Mike Richards, who is the current executive producer of Jeopardy and Wheel of Fortune, he does both shows for Sony. He is in advanced negotiations to become the next host of Jeopardy.
Oh.
Yeah. So I know that it's a blow to everybody of Star Trek and Reading Rainbow fans everywhere, and even Roots fans who really wanted LeVar Burton to be the next host of the show. But it looks like it's going to be Mike Richards, but it may not happen. It's just advanced negotiations. The reason why I say it may not happen is because there was a lawsuit that he had been a part of back in 2011. I'm just going to bring this up because it's important. In 2011, he was sued when he was the executive producer of The Price is Right as a sexual harassment, kind of like what Bob Barker had to go through when he was host.
Yeah.
Yeah. So 2 of the models had left the show in the middle of the season, and because they felt that they were being like humiliated, stuff like that. And these 2 women had sued Fremantle Media, who produces the show, and Mike Richards, the executive producer. So that lawsuit, which was settled in 2013, has now come back up 10 years later. Now that Richards is more than likely going to be the third ever host of Jeopardy. So I don't know what could happen.
Don't let your heart get broken too much. Understand. We're trying to give you the information so you can process it.
Yeah. So LeVar Burton, I mean, I watched his episodes. I mean, I'm a big Jeopardy fan. So I watched his episodes. He was very shaky the first 2 episodes. Both the Monday and Tuesday episodes were shaky for him. But then after like Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday show, he got better and stuff like that. And it's kind of crazy. Like, but we have to thank ourselves that we got him the guest host at all as a bunch of Trekkies. So, I mean, that change petition had over 250,000 signatures.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
So like petitions work, guys. Half of Star Trek has been driven by, like in recent years, has been driven by petitions. So
yeah, and
power to the people.
That's 2 successful ones. The first one was getting Strange New Worlds.
Mm-hmm.
Yep, that was like probably over 1 million signatures and stuff like that. The second one was LeVar Burton, being on guest host Jeopardy. Or, granted, the petition had asked Sony to have him be the permanent host, but it may not happen. granted, the man is in his late 60s, so and maybe that probably worked against him. But I mean, not saying that I'm not trying to be ageist at all, but maybe that worked against him because of his age and stuff like that. He's like 68 years
so
old.
It's just like it's easy to think like I don't know how many people actually know LeVar Burton. I hope a lot of people know him for all the things that he's done. Mm-hmm. I think that's kind of another thing too, is like who are they choosing? Like who seems to have a lot of hype behind them being there. Perhaps they want someone maybe who's not too hyped about certain experiences, or maybe they want a fresh face who can start their career, or there's so many factors. Like, and I'm not sure how they're making that decision, but I'm confident with whatever decision that they make. Seems like the fact that they had guest hosts and kind of like listen to people hosting, that seemed like a good way for them to kind of figure out if people like this, like how do they feel about this person.
Yeah, I had granted, I watched most of them. I didn't like a few of them. Like Dr. Oz, Mehmet Oz.
Oh yeah.
Or I thought Dr. Gupta from CNN was okay.
Yeah.
But my top 3 favorite guest hosts were Aaron Rodgers, Green Bay Packers quarterback Aaron Rodgers, Mayim Bialik, and LeVar Burton. I have a feeling that Bialik probably won't be considered because of the fact of the matter is her show on Fox just got renewed for a second year. If it had been canceled after 1 year, I have a feeling they probably would have considered her more to be the next host. I mean, I like her. I mean, I love her. She's a neuroscientist first and foremost.
Yeah.
She's also an actress. So, and stuff like that. But I thought when I watched her shows, I enjoyed watching her. I thought she had the gravitas to be the next host and stuff like that. So that was my 3 favorite choices: Aaron Rodgers, Mayim Bialik, LeVar Burton. But I don't know how Joe Buck will do. But
yeah,
I mean, people either love him or hate him.
Yeah.
But regarding that, but he was actually one that had not been on Celebrity Jeopardy before. Like some of the guest hosts that they have been on Jeopardy before, being a contestant on Celebrity Jeopardy, like the recent one, David Faber, who was on CNBC. So that definitely was there. So so I don't mean this. I mean, it's a little disappointing that LeVar Burton is probably not being considered as the permanent host of Jeopardy, but we should be thankful that we got him the guest host at all.
Exciting news. News and a wrap.
Yeah, that's a wrap on the news. Time travel. All right. I love time travel.
It's such a huge part of Star Trek. And also why I love Star Trek is because of all the time traveling.
Yes, I do like the time travel. The fish out of water situation definitely is the best.
I also love how much they try to sort of half explain it. Like try to give a chance of like some sort of like faux logic around why it works the way it does. Or it gives some reasoning of like as to why it happened, like temporal anomalies and so many temporal anomalies.
So many technobabble.
Yeah, all the technobabble I love that about Star Trek. It makes you feel like you're like, I can believe that they're traveling. Like I think that's an important part of sci-fi is making the science aspect of it believable if you're exploring something that doesn't exist in today's standards.
Yes, yeah, definitely. So,
and the way that they time travel is very different too. Like we have stories of them traveling to the past. We have stories of traveling to the future. Time loops where you're looped in the past somewhere or in a series of time. And I think it's just interesting the different approaches that they have.
Yeah, and it's really kind of interesting that, we've had like at least 30, 40 stories about Star Trek going time traveling. Either something comes like they travel back to the past or travel to the future, or something from the past travels into the future. Like I can bring up one right now. Yesterday's Enterprise. The Enterprise C travels through that time vortex and ends up in the hellish future with the Enterprise D, in which the Klingons are pretty much conquered the Federation. So
and that's like a big and like that's another example of like seeing a future thing and then hoping that you can somehow change it then in the present, or that you travel to the past and it's an alternate timeline versus traveling to the past and it's on a linear timeline. Like a lot of the original series episodes are very much this, like it's a linear timeline. When they travel back in time, you have to use the prime directive and be careful and not alter time. Yes. Whereas there's a lot of stuff like in Voyager, plenty of episodes where it becomes like an alternate timeline that they're experiencing. And so there's no need to really be careful about what you're affecting.
Yes, definitely. And, it's used throughout all of the series except for Picard and Lower Decks. I mean, the trope of time travel and stuff like that. I mean, granted, 2 of the movies are direct results of time travel. 3 of the movies, I should say.
Yeah, there's 3. 3
of them. Voyage Home, First Contact,
2009. Yeah.
2009. So, definitely the time travel trope. Yeah, definitely is a great tool. I mean, like I said at the beginning, William Shatner thought it was dumb when they do it for the Voyage Home. Thought it was stupid. But there's some good ones from the original series. There's only like a few.
I mean, one of the best rated Star Trek episodes, City on the Edge of Forever.
Yeah, City on the Edge
of
Forever.
That's like a huge example of them really trying to like play with the idea of time travel and the effects of it too.
Yep.
Like being like, oh, it's super vulnerable to change. Do not change history, otherwise you'll erase the Federation.
Yep. And that's pretty much what happens when McCoy jumps through that time portal and he causes the Edith Keeler to survive and Enterprise disappears. So, and then Kirk and Spock travel back in time to pretty much allow Edith Keeler to die so they can have the Federation back. So, but, the very first instance of using time travel actually was in the Naked Time.
Yeah.
So, because, they reverse warp, I guess, and they went backwards in time, and they went back up 3 days. So, and it's like, oh, no, not the last 3 days. Everyone was going nuts. Yeah. And don't forget, tomorrow is yesterday, too.
Tomorrow's yesterday.
Yep, the one where the Enterprise accidentally was in the 60s.
Yeah, they do a lot of, traveling into the past.
Yes, there are a lot more travels to the past than there are in like something coming through the future or going to the future.
Yeah,
there's a lot more going to the past, either by intentional or accidental. And in that case, Tomorrow is Yesterday was an accident, and stuff like that. And
I love ones where they start playing with like different rates of time, or like actually taking into consideration the speed of time. Like Voyager, Blink of an Eye, they play with that concept, like relative speed of time, and I think that's pretty cool.
And the one that they're on the planet, they say are over in the planet that evolves
just for a couple hours,
and they're like an advanced civilization, that kind of
by the time, and all of a sudden they're seeing it, they realize that it's expanding and advancing at a really incredible rate, and then by the end of it they get to be visited by them to be like, wow, you've been such a big part of our life. What brings you here? Like, why do you choose to be here this whole time? And it's like, oh man, we've been here like 2 hours. We're just trying to get our stuff set up before we keep going on our voyage.
We're just trying to get out. We're trying to get out of here.
We're just trying to get out of here. We were just parking and stopping for a minute and refueling, getting something fixed. To them, it was thousands of years.
Yeah, to them it was like thousands of years, but to Voyager it was like 2 or 3 hours.
Yeah.
So it was like but then they were stuck in that orbit. And they were stuck in that orbit because of the planet itself, and they apparently became part of the mythos of that planet.
Yep.
Either intentionally or not unintentionally, being the sky ship. So stuff like that. But then also episodes like we can go to Voyager and stuff like that. Timeless, the 100th episode actually, in which Voyager actually tried to get home, but ended up crashing on this ice planet. Everyone dies.
Yep.
And the only two survivors of the disaster are Chakotay and Harry Kim.
Yeah, and having to somehow that's the thing too, altering decisions made in the past affecting the future, and how can you change that? Which that was a huge part of that story, because if they wouldn't have, that would have been it, right?
That would have been it. Yeah, that would have been it. The end. Yeah, that would have been the end of Voyager. That would have been interesting and stuff like that.
The other Voyager episode that I always think of for time travel is Year of Hell.
Oh yeah,
that's an insane one too. I think probably some of my biggest favorite time travel episodes have all been in Voyager.
Mm-hmm. They've been in Voyager too for me. Like Future's End or Year of Hell or Timeless or Relativity, I should say. Bring that up too.
Yeah.
When someone tries to prevent Captain Braxton from blowing up Voyager because Braxton has a kind of like an Ahab kind of obsession. Because apparently, according to the 29th Century Federation, Voyager shows up on their sensors far too often for violating the timeline.
Well, yes, I always laugh about that, the violations of timeline stuff, and when we actually get to hear about the timekeeper type of people who investigate that kind of stuff in Deep Space Nine, and they reference Kirk being like, "Oh, I know you guys have you're violating some time rules here, but our biggest person is Kirk. He has this many violations on his file, the most of any." 17 violations, temporal violations on his file.
And they call him a menace for that reason.
Yep.
Because the man was a menace. But, I was just thinking about, they thought Kirk was a menace. Why not Janeway?
Yeah, I'm how in the heck do they not bring her up? I mean, that's her, the whole story of them getting home, most of it is time travel related. Why they even end up in a decent, maybe they just can't track it. Maybe they only track the Alpha Quadrant, or so, maybe they don't keep track of Delta Quadrant violations because they don't protect or own that part of space, or enforce it there. I don't know. It's weird.
Yeah.
My favorite funny time travel episodes have all been Deep Space Nine, though. Little Green Men and Trials and Tribulations.
Yes. Little Green Men, definitely.
Yes.
With Quark, Rom, and Nog being the Martians. They played on the Roswell landing of 1947.
Yeah.
Oh man, I love that episode. I think it's just funny all the way through, and
oh yeah, I absolutely love that one. I mean, that's definitely one of my favorites. And then Trials and Tribulations is just a treat to watch.
Yeah,
funny and a treat.
Yes. Yeah, and it's I like the scene in Little Green Men when he's they don't talk to each other yet, the humans and the Ferengi, and he does the nose thing.
The shaking their nose at each other, yeah.
And he goes I've always heard primitive humans lacked intelligence, but I had no idea they were this stupid.
Yeah.
I had no idea they were this stupid. And, he was shocked that Quark was shocked that we irradiated our own planet. They irradiated their own planet?
Yeah.
Because it was after World War II, and with the atomic age and stuff like that, and it's they irradiated their own planet. And, oh my gosh! And then Quark tries to keep them here, and he's gonna sell them the warp technology.
Yeah. It's you can't do that.
It's oh god, oh man,
yeah.
Man.
What a Pandora's box he would have opened up doing something like that.
If he actually succeeded in that, oh my gosh, that would have been interesting.
I really love using. I just love how Star Trek utilizes time travel for storytelling and kind of bringing stuff to resolution, from the movies. Yep. To even the end of Voyager and Endgame, they do that too. It's how are you going to end this on a final note? With some time travel.
Of course, yeah, why not?
How are you going to fix everything? Time travel.
Yeah, and I think out of Berman era finales that were like 2 hours long, Endgame is the weakest one.
Yeah.
Because they get home, there's no celebration, there's no resolution, there's no debriefing. The episode could have gone for another hour.
Oh, I know. They definitely skipped a lot of like what you'd expect, like for a crew being gone that long. Like, did everyone just forget about Voyager being like, they're lost cause? And when they get back, they're like, oh, all right, anyway. It's like, dude, that would be insane if we lost astronauts or anything for that period of time and then they just somehow finally got home. I mean, that would be insane. That'd just be like news forever. Everyone would be so excited and just wanting to know, like, what happened? What's going on? How did you get home?
Yeah, I know that the novels after Voyager ended kind of elaborated on that. There's kind of elaborated on what happened, like, they meet, like Catherine Janeway meets Jean-Luc Picard for the first time and stuff like that, and other things of that nature. But I mean, I wish they had done more with that ending of Endgame. Like, that episode could have gone for another hour. I mean, because but they wanted to wrap everything in a nice little present. Well, it didn't. It was partially wrapped.
Yeah. But for series finales, at least, like, I love All Good Things, like Next Generation's All Good Things. That's a good one for like comparing time travel-y series ends, I guess.
Yes.
Endgame is like, all right, like cool, but All Good Things is awesome.
I mean, granted, that doesn't feel like the finale just yet because by that time Generations was in production, and that's that. I mean, that's definitely the ending of the Enterprise D era is Generations, which also involves time travel a little bit. I forgot there's 4 movies, and then but Generations is the 4th one.
Oh yeah,
with the Nexus and stuff like that. That's how we got Kirk here. That's how you got Kirk and Picard meeting each other.
Yep.
Yeah, so I forgot about that.
I know there's so much. Like, I mean, I feel like I could comb through all the movies and series and just remember more and more time travel stuff. Like, there's even just like subtle bits of time travel or very like brief things where it's just like a plot point, but it's like it is used very. I mean, it's like a key storytelling component of Star Trek. Like, for the most part, like wherever there's like big progress or you want to show character growth or a what if scenario, time travel. I mean, like that was a big thing about like the episode you brought, like Yesterday's Enterprise and stuff, like just being like how, like looking at that too and understanding, seeing Worf laugh for the first time, like where it's like, what happened there? Telling the story of like, oh no, is this the future that we have, or is this the past we could have had? Like all the different things that they visit. And First Contact is another one like that too. Yep. Just like, here's a story I'm warning you about, like, because of the Borg, know that this exists. Here's your chance to change that future.
Yes. And I think about like other things like that, and that's great. And can't forget about cause and effect.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, from the Next Generation, and it's, I mean, I love that episode. I do like that episode. It's one of my favorites. So, but it's always fun to watch the Enterprise. I mean, they're stuck in this time loop of the Enterprise blowing up every 12 hours.
Yeah.
It's like every 12 hours. And, and you got Kelsey Grammer as Captain Bateson and stuff like that. I mean, I like him as an actor, but not as his political views. But but I do like him and stuff like that. I mean, I enjoy him from Frasier and The Simpsons and Cheers. But but definitely that is an episode that probably could have gone like another 20 minutes.
Yeah.
Because of the ending of that episode. He goes because he asked him what year it is. He asked him he asked Bateman what Picard asked Batesman what you know what year this is? He says, yes, of course I do. It's 2278. And then he goes perhaps you should be aboard our ship. There's something we need to discuss.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, I have a feeling I know what it is. He beams aboard, talks with Picard, and saying it's 2369. So not 20.
Adjust, I guess. I don't know what else to tell you.
You have been in that. You have been in that temporal loop for the last 90 years. This is 2364, not 2369, not 2278.
Yeah.
So, so you've been there for 90 years. So I just imagining that conversation was not a very happy one.
Oh yeah, and like you could kind of figure like it'd be like anybody who's experienced being in a coma or a lapse in their time and having to wake up from that. It'd be like, wow, have things changed? And it's like, especially for a time period that long, that can't be good. Where it's like everybody you know and love is likely gone, or nearly passed. Which is that's a tough thing with all the time travel stuff, is meeting older versions of people or like future versions of yourself or of others. Like I think of a very emotional Deep Space Nine episode, The Visitor, where Sisko's trapped in this kind of weird like temporal thing of seeing Jake grow old, and it's like a very weird. But it's very emotional, big character growth.
Yes, definitely. The Visitor definitely is a time travel story, even though it's technically not like time travel-y, but it does make sense for the time travel trope.
Yeah, it's like a kind of like more of a Christmas, like like a Christmas Carol, like ghosts of the future's past type of thing. Like being sort of like a like Q has done this with Picard, like kind of showing these futures where it's like you're not necessarily traveling, but you're seeing potential futures, or like you're kind of existing on the edge of that reality and seeing stuff of the future, like you not necessarily traveling, but you're seeing into the future, which that's kind of a weird way to do time travel, but it is in a way time travel. And if you're not physically traveling, you're seeing into the future or into the past even too.
Yes, and that was definitely there. Yep. Granted that and I'm glad that future for the Next Generation crew didn't really happen.
Yeah.
I mean, because of the fact, because they all drifted apart. One died, Deanna Troi, sadly.
Yeah.
But but I'm just glad it didn't really happen because with the films and especially now with Picard, they're more of a close knit group of people, thanks in part because and I have a feeling that was probably just because behind the scenes work too.
Yeah.
If it had gone 7 years the way it was written originally for Next Generation, it would have been just like that future. It would have been just like that future. But thanks to Michael Piller, who made the show more character-driven stories, they're more caring of each other. They're like best buds, that kind of thing, Especially, it was definitely probably behind the scenes and also with this cast, I mean, granted, they were the first cast that actually got along with each other.
Yeah.
Unlike the original series, because, James Doohan and George Takei hated William Shatner's guts.
Yeah, I know.
I know Takei still does.
Yeah.
So,
not a fan.
not a fan of his guts. Yeah, so, but this was... that's what I like about all the shows since the original series. All the casts have gotten along with each other.
Yeah, I think it's an important part of making it work is having that.
Yes, I think when we got a cast that actually likes each other, chose the bat for one another and stuff like that. Because that actually happened with Enterprise too. I didn't know this, but I have the Blu-ray sets of Enterprise, and they mentioned in the documentaries for it that since most of the cast were younger than Scott Bakula, I mean, Scott Bakula was the oldest one. They were always he was always going to bat for his cast because he was the oldest one. So that's why I understood. It's like he pretty much went to bat for them with anything that they had a problem with, something like that.
And that's a cool way to approach people's careers of being helpful and a friend on screen and off screen.
Yes, and
I think that's something too that I really like about Star Trek. It seems like in general, at least like in the later series, like they too are also like obviously fans of Star Trek, but that they really actually like each other off screen. Like I loved there was like this summer I saw there was a picture of Janeway and Robert Picardo, hanging out, like Kate Mulgrew and him just like chilling out, having some drinks and stuff. And I'm like, that's great to see them just hanging out, being like, hey guys, like
Yeah.
Look at us chilling out. And you see some of them in like groups. Like I've seen Delancey and Robert Picardo are both in Star Trek shit posting, like that group. They're both in there and they bat all the time for stuff there. Like they like always like stand up for stuff. Like there was something like I think the group got shut down randomly for some reason, and Robert Picardo like made a whole like video being like, hey, that's not cool, here's why you should keep that open, and like I really like it as a place, and I got it back open. It's like, wow, I can't believe the emergency medical hologram helped us all out here. Like, what are the odds that he's still like on and off screen? He's an emergency responder that saves the day.
Yes, and it's time travel made him more the doctor more like a more mobile doctor, I should say.
Yeah, I'm like, if it wasn't for time travel, he literally wouldn't be able to exist outside of the medical deck area,
out of sick bay or the holodeck, or the holodecks. So.
Yeah, that too. So I think that's super cool. What a way to strengthen the plot, being like, again, like they always try to find some way to sort of like scientifically expand things by being like, oh, time travel, future technology. Here we go. Like now you can magically do this better. Or like with Voyager traveling, it's like getting a hold of like nanotechnology or cool stuff that will help you get home. Like, even though this is in the future, going even further in the future helps people of the future anyway.
Yes, and I thought that was really interesting, and also like we brought time travel being put up for last before, and then can't forget about the voyage home.
Yep.
And double dumbass on you, and
yeah.
But the funny part of it, is like Spock's trying to swear and he can't swear.
Yeah.
They like you very much, but they are not the hell you're whales. I suppose they told you that, didn't you? Apparently, the hell they did, or whether it was. I suppose they told you that, huh? The hell they did. Yeah. So he says the hell to everything.
Like, that's not how that works. It's like amazing.
Yeah. It's like, and then Spock and Kirk have that conversation afterward, going like, Spock, you really should stop doing that because you don't quite got the knack of it.
Yeah. He's trying. Give it the good old try.
Give it the old college try. Yeah, and he tried. He tried very much, and he just flat out failed on it and stuff like that. And and don't forget about some other hilarious things about time travel. Within First Contact, Troy gets drunk.
Yeah.
Tequila.
Yeah, I'm like, yep, that's that's like an experience, I guess, only in the past, I guess.
And I also think it's always funny when they meet when Data and Picard are in the Phoenix's launch center area, and Lily Sloan starts firing her weapon at them, and he goes, and Picard says, "Hold your fire, we're trying to help you," and then Lily says, "Bullshit," and starts firing. It always makes me laugh whenever she says that. It always time. I mean, granted, we'll probably just like, but she says it, and it's like, it's okay, because in Star Trek, I can say it,
Yeah.
But she says bullshit. It's like,
it's so funny.
It is so. It screams it out too, and it's hilarious.
Yeah. Well, I'm sure it's scary. It's like being on the other side of the time travel, where you're the person experiencing someone traveling through time. That's intense. Like something from the future coming to the past. It's like, how do you manage that? And like that's a whole plot point that you'll see throughout Star Trek. Of like, how do people of the past handle like this little glimpse into the future? And like, is it something you have to tiptoe around, or people, accepting of it?
Yes.
Like you get to see all the different ways that they handle like reacting to time travel, and that the future, we're like, oh, it's just part of our existence. We just time travel temporal anomalies, but then you travel back to like 1950s United States, and it's like, I can't even. What it must be bad or evil because this is insane. I'm scared now.
Yeah, it's like that's happened a few times regarding like people from the past who experience the future, and actually some do go. Like only one goes to the future, and that's Julian Taylor from The Voyage Home.
Mm-hmm.
But with Rain Robinson and Lily Sloan from Future's End, and also Lily Sloan from First Contact. with those characters and stuff like that, and Zephyr Cochrane to an extent.
Yeah.
Learning about his future and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Future history telling, not history of the past, but learning that he's a huge kind of shaping his character, knowing that in the future he is held very highly.
Yeah, highly.
And kind of cleans up his act a little bit.
Yeah, and exactly. So you got these like characters who like, I don't want to be a part of this, or it's like, oh, what am I supposed to do here, and I'm from the future and stuff like that. I'm from Iowa. I'm only working outer space.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's the time travel. I think is very intertwined with Star Trek. I mean, we literally have a whole alternate timeline of the original series because of time travel plot. Like J.J. Abrams' Kelvin timeline is literally a product of time travel shenanigans. Yeah. So, I think that's why I'm always looking forward to seeing more opportunities around time travel storytelling.
Yes, and I thought that, granted, I thought that the way that they did the time travel in the Kelvin timeline was a little bit funky.
Yeah.
I mean, how the heck do you use a black hole to travel back 145 years or something like that? 130 years.
And also the weird thing of like realizing like black holes are, or how they were referring to black holes is definitely more of like a wormhole, not a black hole.
Yeah.
Like, there's a whole thing of like black holes are actually just like really dense points in space, not necessarily like a hole in space that you could travel through.
Yeah.
That's more of a wormhole, not a black hole. But just like the whole purposes around like just trying to explain it away, like.
Yeah, I thought that was a little bit funky, and that's just me, and that's but yeah, it's more of like a wormhole, a time traveling wormhole rather than a black hole. Because but it was okay. I mean, it works and stuff like that for the story, but at this I was a little wonky. And then also we have like a wormhole that takes the Discovery into the future. Takes them well over almost 1,000 years into their future, in which the Federation is splintered, like to the point where Earth is no longer a part of it, nor is Vulcan.
Yeah.
It's Nivar now. I should say Nivar, because of the fact that the unification did occur, which was kind of nice. Nice little episode. That's actually one of my favorites from season 3 of Discovery is Unification 3.
Yeah, Discovery also does an amazing job. I mean, they do an amazing job at telling stories with time travel too, just totally transforming each season.
Yep, and they're trying to. I mean, granted, it was the time travel plot of season 2 was to get to explain why Discovery was never mentioned again in canon.
Yeah.
And why Marco Burnham was never mentioned before Discovery and stuff like that. And then you got this going into the future and kind of thing, and
I'm excited to see where it ends up now. It's a new season of seeing it. I'm like, I wonder what time travel shenanigans are going to be in this.
Yeah, this 5 light year wide anomaly.
Yeah.
I mean, granted, I don't know what's going to happen, but I mean, it looks pretty cool. They're flying out of their seats, and I thought, whoa, that's cool.
Yeah. Well, it's going to be intense.
Yeah, and it might be, if I'm just going to say this right now, Trek Movie made that prediction that since Lower Decks and Prodigy are after each other, one after another, Discovery's 4th season will fly just underneath the radar on December 30th. So, but if it does happen, but I mean, granted, it may delay maybe a week or two because they remember back in like April they had a COVID outbreak.
Yeah.
So it may have affected it.
Yeah,
but
we'll see how it goes.
We'll see how that goes, but it's interesting to see what happens and stuff like that. Going further along with time travel stuff like that, we'll have a Picard obviously, and because we're going to be back in time to 2021.
Well, now we might get a little experience of time travel-y vibes now in Picard with Q appearing. So it'll be interesting to see that. When Q comes around, he usually loves to play with time a bit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I thought, how are they going to... I hope this is something that's never mentioned. I hope that in this version of 2021, this COVID pandemic is not mentioned.
Yeah.
But... but it'll be interesting to see if it is.
Yeah.
Because it is part of our history.
Mm-hmm.
but I wonder if it will be mentioned, stuff like that. And then time travel is also used for interesting episodes as well for time travel. I forgot to mention like episodes like Assignment Earth from the original series, one with Gary Seven and stuff like that. Granted, that was a backdoor pilot, so
Yeah.
I mean, granted, it would have been interesting had they had gone with it, because it would have been like a time traveling James Bond,
Yeah.
kind of character, and it would have been interesting, and stuff like that, being its own show.
Yeah, that would have been a cool spinoff if someone would have actually ran with it and kept it going.
Yeah, I think it's still a cool concept even today. I mean, a time traveling James Bond. I mean, granted, I think the Section 31 show would probably do something like that with Michelle Yeoh. I mean, granted, I think she kicks ass. So, I absolutely adore her. So I think she could kick ass doing that, like being James Bond, like a female James Bond in the Star Trek universe kind of thing, doing time traveling kind of thing. Because Section 31 did experiment with time travel in season 2, and that's how that whole angel suit came around. Was like it's
writers hear us out, just like
if you're hearing us, do it.
Do it up.
And then also like episodes like Past Tense, from DS9, to make commentary on societal situations. I mean, granted, we're getting close to that now. Like trying to cordon off the homeless.
Yeah. They often use time travel to kind of do like a little bit of critical analysis of current times, of being like, we're gonna travel back, like how Spock makes note of our atmosphere in the 70s, being like, we must be in 20th century Earth, because look at the atmosphere and the pollution, must be Earth in the 20th century. Yep. It's like that's quite a call out, being like, hey guys, anyone watching this, remember.
Yeah, and his exact line is, judging by the pollution content of the atmosphere, I believe we have arrived at the latter half of the 20th century.
Yeah.
So that's actually his line right there.
Yeah.
And from what I understand, and this is something about Voyage Home, this is more production standpoint, because Nicholas Meyer and Howard Bennett wrote that screenplay. That actually is his first line. Nick Meyer's first line in that movie is that line, judging by the content of the atmosphere line. But then also, it's like, also save the whales, and save the humpback whale, and stuff like that. Granted, thanks to Star Trek, that population, which had been dwindling by 1986, is now back to like, I think, over 500,000 specimens. So
it's wild, but that's like kind of the beauty of time travel, I guess, especially being able to do commentary on current events from a future sci-fi standpoint.
Yes, and it's not just Star Trek that does that either. And there's some other Star Trek science fiction films and TV shows that do that. Like, I thought of like District 9.
Yep.
That definitely did a commentary on racism.
Yeah, it's like the way that we treat people, like the South African history in itself, doing a reflection on that.
Yeah, with apartheid, yes. Yeah, it's not just Star Trek that does commentaries on with using a science fiction elements at all.
That's like sort of touching on our previous episode when you were talking with Birko, is the inevitable like aspect of science fiction is sort of the political and social commentary that it can provide. And one way that Star Trek usually does that is doing its time traveling into the past to sort of remark on how it's going in during that time period that they're traveling back to, which usually is like our time, like doing a past travel, but also using the future to be like, this is what could end up if you don't make better decisions or change your ways.
Yeah, and I thought there's like Enterprise uses time travel a lot because of the temporal Cold War and stuff like that, which I thought was cool. I mean, granted, that came out of a different kind of science fiction concept that Brandon Braga had, but it's kind of weird how that all came about for Enterprise, is because Berman and Braga want to do a prequel because they felt that nothing could be told after Voyager. Nothing could be like further into the future and stuff like that. So they had to go back to the past and stuff like that. But then UPN wanted something like wanted something after Voyager, like further past it. And I'm like, no, we can't do that. It's become unrealistic for us.
Yeah.
That's why we went back to 22nd century. Well, they decided on having a prequel, but also having a future aspect to it, which came out of the temporal Cold War and stuff like that, and Future Guy.
Yeah.
Which we never got to see who he was. I mean, I've heard theories that it could be a future version of Archer, and I've also heard it's a Romulan.
Yeah.
So I've heard fan theories about James Horn's character from the first 3 years, for the first 2 years of Enterprise, the future guy who was all by the shadows, manipulating everything and stuff like that. I honestly thought it was Archer and stuff like that.
I'd love to see a little more like revisitation of Enterprise plot, because it seems to be something that's kind of left out because of how it kind of sort of half flopped during the time I was running, like definitely fizzling out in this, like that first wave of Star Trek coming to an end, where at that time, that's when Star Trek was probably at its biggest low, besides the very beginning of Star Trek.
Yes.
Like it's starting to experience a lull and a low where like people just don't really care, and then it just kind of fizzled out. So it'd be nice to see, like, there was a lot of really good plot points and things that could have been explored more in Enterprise had it maybe got more reception and popularity. And it'd be nice to see a lot of more of that explored through other series, like referencing it. Like the only reference I've really seen, like the in J.J. Abrams thing, like talking about Archer's dog, like they take like when Montgomery Scott is like talking about like
transporter technology.
Yeah. I mean, like, I took his old dog there, and I'm just waiting for him to come back. Like, it's like, oh man, that's not good.
Oh yeah, so I tried on Archer's Pines Beagle, and Kirk goes, like, I know that dog. Where is it? I'll let you know when it reappears.
Yeah. I'm like, uh-oh.
Like, uh-oh. Yeah, that was a nice little nod to Enterprise. But, Enterprise, the whole temporal Cold War thing was actually like kind of like a different concept altogether and stuff like that. It could have been its own show. That's what it was originally. So, but definitely, I know the temporal Cold War wasn't a big hit with the fans. Everyone thought it was dumb and stuff like that. But then again, there were some good episodes from that era of Enterprise, regarding that, like episodes like Stormfront, the episode after
Stormfront was cool.
Yeah, with the alternate version of World War II, in which the Nazis had taken over the eastern seaboard of the United States, when it didn't happen in real life.
That's another cool time travel episode.
Yeah, and there's also good time travel episodes too, like from Enterprise. Well, it's technically not time travel; it's more of a bad dream, kind of like Year of Hell, the episode Twilight. In which everything went to hell and stuff like that. The Xindi mission ended in failure and stuff like that, and Earth is destroyed, that kind of thing. But it's kind of like Year of Hell, and Yesterday's Enterprise. They're technically time travel stories, but they're also classified as bad dream episodes.
Yeah, bad dream stories. It's similar to that the Deep Space Nine episode too. It's like these bad dream episodes of like looking at kind of being a ghost or a what if scenario, dreaming about it or experiencing it through some sort of like vision into time, not so much of physically traveling through time.
Yeah, Visionary is one of those too, and it's like a bad dream, and then a time change reverses everything back to normal, that kind of thing. So, but it's okay. Deadlock is kind of like that one too, but but it's not necessarily a time travel story. It's more of like a sciencey type of story.
Yeah.
So, but definitely, because you got like one Dark Voyager who's got severely damaged, and the other one's just clean and pristine.
Yeah.
But definitely, and Harry Kim's dies, but comes back through this divergent field and stuff like that. And
like, hey, we can use the other one, right?
Yeah, because you get him and the other Naomi. So because Naomi died.
Like nobody will ever know.
Yeah, no one ever know. No one will care. No one will care. And you'll still say it's weird. But like Janeway says, Mr. Kim, we're Starfleet officers. We're just part of the job.
Yeah.
I love that line. I still love that line. Still love that
part of the job.
It's all part of the job.
That's literally time travel in Star Trek. It's just part of the job.
Yeah. Depending on how you feel about it and stuff like that. Yes, it is part of the job. I mean, granted, that's pretty much like if you were a Starfleet officer, wouldn't you want to be time traveling a lot?
Yeah.
See like future past things or something like that, or
just part of the job.
Just part of the job, and it's. I mean, granted, that's probably what I wouldn't mind doing as a Starfleet officer, going on time being a historian or something like that. They had historians on the Enterprise, but and but that's okay. It's fine. Anyway, I think that's about it. Any final thoughts?
No, just that. Now I just want to go through and kind of look at all the time travel episodes, or what I consider time travel versus bad dream stories, and categorizing those. There we go. There's another data set that you can look at, is how many time travel episodes are there in Star Trek, and what does that mean to time travel?
I wonder if it was actually 47. I wonder if it was actually exactly 47.
Yeah, I don't know.
Because I know that's at least 30.
Yeah.
Spread out across all the shows. I know it's at least 30. But I'm kind of curious to see how many there actually are.
Yeah.
It's including the films. And granted, I didn't mean to. I forgot to mention this on our last episode. We're talking with Bjerko. Was that I applaud you for actually trying to do all 800 plus episodes of Star Trek.
Yeah.
And using that for the dialogue and stuff like that. I mean, I should have said, wow.
I mean, that's when she said she manually went through to assign, note who is what, like male or female. That's pretty intense. Like, to be like, here's all my lines of dialogue from these characters, but I have to go through and check every character and group them by their gender that I have to go through and mark manually. And then it's a clean data set once she adds that in.
Yeah, and it's.
But it's like now you'd have to do that with like episodes of Star Trek and be like, which one group by which ones have time travel mentioned.
Yeah,
that'd be insane.
Yes, it would be very insane, But I mean, granted, the pandemic pretty much allowed her to do it. So
yeah, the space and time and the passion to explore it.
Yeah, that's great. All right, so I'm gonna make this little note here. I know in episode 26, I said the next time we'd be talking to people about Lower Decks. I made that mistake because I thought that by the time we recorded again, because by that time we hadn't scheduled with Bjerko yet, and stuff like that. So I wasn't sure about how this all was going to go about and stuff like that. But
that's all right.
But I'm just letting you guys, letting the listeners know that I made an error. So, but that's okay. So the next time we will be talking, hopefully by the time we record again, there will be 4 episodes of Lower Decks Season 2 already out on Paramount Plus and Amazon Prime Video and Crave and stuff like that elsewhere. And we can do 2 episodes talking about those 4 episodes, because this will definitely be episodes 29, 30, and what beyond.
Yeah.
Until this year's of the Trek is over. We probably would do like side episodes here and there, but but definitely for like episodes that we're gonna be talking about the new Star Trek content, I'm gonna try to group them, Mm-hmm. So it's better that we do the next 2 episodes after this will probably be 29 and 30.
Yep.
Will be about at least the first 4 episodes of Lower Decks Season 2. First 2 are going to be on episode 29. Next 2 on episode 30 and stuff like that. And it's going to be interesting because we got, like I said, we got a year's worth of Trek coming up.
Yeah.
A full year, hopefully. Granted, there might be a week or maybe they'll space it out. Maybe they will. Who knows? But at least a whole year's, if not more, worth of Trek. Because Discovery is almost wrapped now. The actors have stated like, hey, I'm done. I'm going home.
Yeah.
And stuff like that. And other things. Picard's still shooting. Thankfully, they haven't had a COVID outbreak.
Oh, so many moving parts.
Yeah. Picard's still going on.
See how they'll play it all out and release things. I'm sure that's a lot of discussion that they have to have of like without, raining on another series parade or worrying about lessening the impact of another series by releasing them. So I'm sure they have a lot of release strategy stuff going on.
Oh yeah, they probably are. Strategizing how to release these. But as of this recording, Lower Decks Season 2, Episode 1 will premiere this week on Paramount Plus and Amazon Prime Video and Crave. So if you are a big fan of Lower Decks, I know I am, because I'm looking forward to laughing again with Star Trek.
Yeah.
It'll be definitely seeing like that. We'll see the first episode this week on August 12th, which is, we're recording it is the 9th, I believe. Yep, the 8th, excuse me.
Yeah.
August 8th. So, yeah, so about 4 days from now, we'll have Lower Decks again, and then Prodigy, then Discovery, then Picard. Keep on going.
Keep on trekking.
Yeah, but I think probably maybe like a week or two break between them. Who knows? But definitely, if that happens, then Discovery will premiere in 2022 instead of 2021.
Yep.
So, but that's okay. I mean, granted, if we can have a week or two space between them, that's fine with me. But that's okay if it don't.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see.
I'll watch it regardless.
I'll watch it regardless, folks. And that's pretty much what we'll be talking about next time. Will be like the Lower Decks episodes and probably spacing them out. So okay. So until next time, take care and live long and prosper.
Live long and prosper.